Hello, this is Shruti Apte from ATRC. And today we have with us Dr. Swati Kanta Samant. We have heard a lot about the black fungus. So she's going to throw some light on that. But before we start, I'll give you a quick introduction about Dr. Swati. She's done her MBBS, MD in microbiology. She's worked in Ruby Hall as a microbiologist in the microbiology department for 2.5 years. And she's currently working as a consultant microbiologist, in Om Diagnostics. So thank you, Dr. Swati. We are happy to have you here. Let me actually, why did we start with this black fungus topic is there is a lot of news and if you see the newspapers, there is almost every day people say that the count of black fungus is increasing, and this is actually causing a lot of panic and fear among people. So we thought that probably it would be best to hear from the expert. So my first question to you is, can you please elaborate a little bit about what black fungus is?
Okay. First of all, namaste to everyone. So I would like to begin by clarifying one thing, that this is not actually black fungus. Black fungus term is a little bit misleading, or rather a misnomer. The reason is black fungus is an entirely different group of fungi. These fungi have got melanin into their cell wall, and they do cause human disease, but not mucormycosis. I feel the reason why everyone is calling it black fungus is because the lesion which looks over the skin is blackish in color, and I think that is why this word has become common.
Okay.
So mucormycosis caused by a different fungi.
Oh, okay. So both the terms are the same almost. It's black fungus or mucormycosis. Okay, fine. So can you just yeah, right. So then actually what is mucormycosis then in that case?
Basically, mucormycosis is a fungal disease which is caused by mucorales. Now,
okay.
Mycosis means infection. So fungal infection caused by mucorales group of fungi is mucormycosis.
Okay.
So,
okay.
The question comes is it a new disease? No. So mucormycosis has been known to cause human disease from past more than 100 years or so.
Okay.
And in our country, since past few decades, there has been continuously increasing number of cases which are being reported because of mucormycosis. And the cause is because we have a huge population who are diabetics, and also there is increase in the number of immunocompromised hosts, either because of organ transplant or because of some malignancies. And that is the reason frequently these cases are reported in India.
Okay. So where does this fungi come from?
Yes. So basically, mucor is present everywhere. It comes from the environment.
Okay.
So where it surrounds, millions of spores surrounds us everywhere all over the world. But primarily, we can say that mucor, they are primarily found in decaying vegetations, in soil, in compost, then in animal excreta or decaying food. Now, here I would like to make one thing clear, that many times, because now we are saying that they are present everywhere. So the question arises, is it causes widespread infection? The answer is no. It does not cause widespread. You will not find many people suffering from mucormycosis. Why? Because as humans, we all have an innate natural immunity against mucor. So what happens is, when we inhale the spores, our primary defense mechanism of the body, which includes neutrophils and macrophages, they come into the picture and they neutralize the fungus, and generally infection doesn't happen.
Right.
Now, suppose, anyways, what happens is fungal infections are, as it is, less pathogenic when you compare to bacterial or viral infections. So there has to be some breach in the immunity of the host for fungus to set up an infection.
Right.
So there is a category of people, those who are at high risk of developing this mucormycosis.
Okay.
So who are these people who are more prone to develop mucormycosis? So this includes people, those who have uncontrolled diabetes, diabetes ketoacidosis, metabolic acidosis, iron overload states like hemochromatosis, iron chelation therapies.
Right.
Then the patient hematological malignancies, neutropenic patients, patients of organ transplant, or patients extensive burn or wound injuries, severe injuries.
Oh, okay.
So these are the patients at risk of developing mucormycosis. A healthy individual generally will not acquire the infection.
Right. So then is this infection contagious?
No, not at all. So infection doesn't happen. It doesn't transmit from person to person or human to animals to humans. It doesn't happen that way. It does not.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay. And then how does the fungi enter the body actually?
So see, depending on how the fungus is entering the body, or we can say there are different types of mucormycosis, but the most common route of entry is the nose.
Right.
So it enters nose, from nose it spreads to our sinus, and
Right.
from sinus then it can go to the palate, or it can go to the eyes, or it can go to the brain. So if this spectrum of mucormycosis occurs, then it is called as rhino or vitocerebral mucormycosis.
Right.
Suppose the mucormycosis goes in the lung, it is called as pulmonary mucormycosis. If the infection happens over the skin, it is called as cutaneous mucormycosis. Generally, this happens in patient of severe burns or those who have got extensive injuries in which soil contamination has happened. There is a percutaneous route of infection, which is seen because of intravenous substance abuse. Then there is GI tract mucormycosis or disseminated mucormycosis.
Right.
But again, these are rarely reported.
Right. Okay. So my next question to you is why is actually COVID-19 and mucormycosis, associated with each other?
Yes, I think this is, I think, a very important question. And honestly, Shruti, there are lots of studies which are going on every day. Some or the other reports are coming. What is the association with this COVID-19 and the increasing number of mucormycosis? So since the onset of this COVID-19, and especially in the second wave in this year, what we are seeing is there are many cases which are reported of this fungal infection all over the country.
Okay.
Now, primarily, we can say there could be two reasons. First and most important is uncontrolled diabetes, that is high blood sugar level.
Right.
And other one is the use of systemic steroids. If very high doses of steroids are used, that could be a cause for this infection. But again, it is a matter of studies, and every day new studies are coming up why this is happening.
Right, right. So do you think we should keep ourselves updated on this? Because there is so much of news going around here and there. So sometimes, it becomes, we do not know what is right and what is wrong.
Yes. It is very important to know about this, because there are so many everyday news, and it scares people. So if we get right information, I think we can educate people so that they will know how this infection happens, and then what can be done about it. So I think here we can talk about the symptoms. I think that is
right. I was coming to the next question. How do we know that? Because as I understand, the symptoms could be, it could be like I could have a normal fever, I could have normal cough, I could have normal cold. So I do not know whether it's really this or it's just a normal thing. So
yes, I think what is important for people to know that, first of all, whether they fall in high risk category or not. The high risk population which we had just discussed, those are the people, those are who need to be aware about the symptoms.
Right.
Now, the symptoms of mucormycosis generally starts with the nose. So the patient will feel a nasal blockage, or there could be nasal discharge, bloody discharge from the nose, which could be either scanty or it could be copious. There could be crust formation in the nasal area, which starts with red and then it may turn blackish. Then from nose, suppose spreads to the sinuses. So here the patient will, they will feel a severe pain on the side where the infection is going. There will be swelling over that side of the area. Sinusitis, symptoms like sinusitis, they will have. Now, suppose the infection from there, it can go to the palate.
Right.
So if the infection goes to the palate, then patient will have pain in the palate, which is called a sore palate. There could be ulcer formation of the palate. These ulcers are called as eschar. Or there could be loosening of the teeth, especially in the maxillary area.
Okay.
Suppose the infection is going to the eye. In that case, patient might have a sudden blurring of vision. There could be diplopia, that means double vision. And there could be tearing from the eye. There could be swelling of the tissue surrounding the eye. Or in severe cases, there could be even the popping out of the eye.
Okay.
Now, if the in the brain, now in this case, patient will have a severe headache. There could be mental confusion, high-grade fever.
Right.
There in eye infection, there is retroorbital pain also. That means the pain at the back side of the eye.
Okay.
So these are symptoms. Now, suppose the patient has pulmonary mucormycosis, that is, it is affecting the lungs. So in that, patient will cough, chest pain, hemoptysis, that means cough associated with blood. That means overall worsening of respiratory symptoms. So if any of these things somebody is noticing, especially if they are at high risk and they have recently came out of COVID, they should immediately consult to their doctor.
Right. So this infection is pretty serious in that case?
Yes, yes. I think that is the whole, I think that is the whole point behind it. It is a very serious infection. And the reason being, this is because this fungus spreads very rapidly. So this is basically, it invades the blood vessels. And during its course, it leaves a trail of destruction. That means it causes extensive tissue necrosis. Tissue necrosis means the tissue becomes dead.
Okay.
So, you know, spreads so fast that within few weeks, patient may lose their eyesight. And if there is involvement of brain, then generally the prognosis is not very good in that cases. So that's why it is a very...
Yeah, so it can't be neglected. So how do you diagnose actually? How is it done?
Yes. So first of all, the diagnosis is an absolutely, this mucormycosis is an absolute medical emergency. So early diagnosis is very, very important. So it is important to reach to their doctor as early as possible. So as soon as they notice that something is not right and they are feeling a few symptoms, they should report to their doctor. Generally, doctor or ENT surgeon, they take the endoscopic guided biopsy depending on the site involved. And then the biopsy is generally divided into two parts. One part is sent for microbiological examination. One part is sent for pathological examination. So in microbiology, or if the patient has like pulmonary aspergillosis, in that case, bronchoalveolar lavage or CT guided biopsy is done and the sample are sent to the lab in normal saline for microbiology.
Right.
Microbiology lab, I think here microbiologist plays a very important role because microbiology lab can give the diagnosis as early as 1 hour. And as soon as the presumptive diagnosis, of course, and as soon as the diagnosis is given, the treatment can be started. So what we do is, when we receive the sample, there is a very basic test in microbiology called as KOH mount, that is potassium hydroxide. So tissue material is put in the KOH mount, and then it is after some time, it is observed under the microscope. And if the patient has mucormycosis, then we can see very clear, broad, ribbon-like fungal hyphae, or septate fungal hyphae are seen.
Right.
Soon as they are seen under the microscope, we can make a presumptive diagnosis of mucormycosis, and immediately clinicians are informed and they start the treatment immediately. Then even the fluoroscopy called as calcofluor white stain, this also has a very high sensitivity, and very quickly they can give the initial diagnosis of mucormycosis. In pathological examination, H&E stains and various other stainings are done so that this fungal hyphae are seen in the tissue. The culture of the mucor is done again in the microbiology lab, and it grows very, very fast. So within 24 hours, you get the growth of mucor in lab in the Petri dishes. It generally grows in all medias very nicely in the which is specially for fungus.
Okay.
And actually they grow so fast that they are called as lid lifters. That means within 48 or 72 hours, they fully cover the plate and they in fact, lift the lid of the petri dish.
Oh my
That's why they
God,
are called
okay.
as lid lifters.
Oh, okay. So they
So
grow at a really faster rate.
yes, they grow very fast. So along with this pathological examination, I think radiological examinations, which include CT and MRI, are again very important, because you can see the extent of the disease. There are some thick wall cavities which can be seen. So they go hand in hand, radiological
Right.
diagnosis and diagnosis.
So then what is the line of treatment, Dr. Swati?
So again, because this is a medical emergency, treatment must be started immediately.
Right.
Generally, patients are, of course, they are hospitalized. And the first thing is, if they have hyperglycemia, that means their blood sugar is increased. So their blood sugar should be brought to the normal levels.
Right.
And then after, two very important things are antifungal treatment and surgical treatment. Surgical debridement of the area is very, very important, because as we had discussed that this fungus causes extensive tissue necrosis. So it is very important to remove that dead tissue, because once you remove the dead, then only the antifungal which you are giving through IV route will reach the remaining healthy tissue, and it will help to kill the fungus.
Right.
So,
okay.
Terifene is the antifungal drug which is given, and along with that, the treatment, it continues for 4 to 6 weeks. Various parameters of the patients like blood sugar, serum creatinine or potassium levels, they are regularly monitored. So what is, suppose this infection is picked up at an early stage and the treatment is started very fast, then of course the patient can be treated. That is why it is important for people to know what are the symptoms of.
Exactly. Yeah. That is, I mean, the information that you gave is like really, it's understood. It can be understood by a layman also. So it's really vital information. And yeah, so can we do anything to prevent this infection?
Honestly speaking, what happens is, see, these spores are everywhere around us.
Right.
So it is very difficult not to inhale. But there are, yes, few can be done, and that should be done specifically in high risk people. What they can do is, first of all, again, if anyone has high blood sugar levels, so glycemic control is very important. Again and again, I'm stressing on this point. So if uncontrolled diabetes, they should again do their doctor, and they should make sure that their blood sugars are within normal limit.
Right.
Then there are in places where there are increased chances of this infection, like water damaged buildings, or if there is water there, or while working in the soil, construction site, soil excavation areas. If possible, high risk people should avoid going to such places, and if it is not possible, they should wear a mask. So I think things, if they can be done, I think mucormycosis can be prevented. It is not that everybody should be scared of this. If our immunity, definitely this infection, we can prevent ourselves from getting this infection.
Right. I think, yeah, that was quite a lot of information and very useful information. And yeah, it was a pleasure. I think we have covered most of the questions, because some of the questions came to us also, because when we posted that we have you coming and chatting with us, there were a few people who actually had posted a questions through WhatsApp and through social media. So I think we have answered most of the questions of our patients who are actually who asked us questions through WhatsApp and also from social media. So thank you so much, Swati. It was a pleasure to have you. And if you think that there would be some topic which would be really interesting, and if you think that it's going to be benefited to a lot of people, maybe you can we can work, and you can get in touch with us, and obviously we'll get in touch with you, and then this information can be shared, because it's necessary that we need to educate people about this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fine. Thank you so much, Swati.
Thank you very much. Thank you
I
very much.
yes, your voice was just breaking, but you were saying something.
No, I was just saying, Ki, thanks for calling me, and I hope
Yes,
I was to clear few things which people might have in
absolutely.
their.
Yes, yes, yes. See, it's always good to know from the experts because there is so much of information going on WhatsApp, on social media, and we really do not know what is right, what is wrong. So, yeah, thank you so much. And it would be a pleasure to have you again with us.
Thank you. Thanks for calling me.
Yes.